In this little video, the topic I am tackling is boundaries within our friendships. So why is it hard? From the survey, so many of you said it's really hard for you to say no in your friendships because you don't want to hurt others. You don't want them to know that you're busy and you didn't invite them, or you don't want to hear that they've got something going on that they're going to expect you to be at when you don't want to. So saying no to invitations is stressful to you. And just saying no to things that you don't want to do, you feel obligated. And many of you say you agree to do things you don't want to do and then feel resentful, or say no and then you feel guilty. So that's a whole combination. People pleasing is at the heart of a lot of this, where we just don't want people to be mad. We don't want to be rejected. Many of you said that you work really hard to try to please everyone, do everything yourself, but then get kind of pissed and feel underappreciated, afraid to set boundaries, even if someone makes me uncomfortable because I don't want to disappoint them. That's a direct quote. Putting other people's needs above my own was said many, many times. Giving too much of myself and putting others before myself. We also, in friendships, tend to want to fix. And again, if we are auto-advice giving, then we're violating boundaries. Just feeling overly responsible for the feeling states, the circumstances, the situations, the decisions of the friends in our life. Really difficult time being honest when you don't want to do something, or bringing something up that hurt your feelings. Hard time bringing up when I'm frustrated in a friendship. I always want to keep the peace. Many of you said that you feel almost like a chameleon in a lot of your friendships. Even if something is going on that you don't like, or people are talking about something that's making you uncomfortable, that you're likely not to say anything because you just don't want to deal with the drama, you want to avoid it, you don't know how to do it. So if you're feeling any of these things, you are not alone. And there's so many reasons why we feel this way. And there's so many reasons why we get locked into friendships and almost feel like we can never change the friendship, or we can never leave the friendship, that a lot of us have misguided loyalty. So let's talk a little bit about that. Then I'll get into the qualities of a good friendship and some ideas of the way that you can draw some boundaries. The first one is that a lot of times it's what I call historical handcuffs, where we've had friendships since childhood. And even though we've probably outgrown them or just grown in different directions, we don't want to end the friendship. There's a sense of obligation that will keep us in that friendship. And I feel like in those relationships, we have to figure out how to talk true or move on. And maybe you have tried to talk true and the person isn't up for it, but attempting to speak your truth about whatever the thing may be, you'll see if the friendship is flexible enough to change. And it might be. Sometimes we're just so afraid to take the action that we never find those things out. If the person is very inflexible, or maybe you've learned that you've grown in such different directions that what they think, what they believe is like literally against your moral code, that just tells you, it's okay. Not all friends are lifers. They're not, and that's okay. We also have life cycles that impact our friendships. So if you are in a group of friends and many of them already have a kid or two kids, but you don't, or you don't want to, and you're not going to, it's not that interesting to sit around and talk about like feeding schedules and pooping if you don't have kids. So I feel like there can be distance, and sometimes you can go apart from those friendships and come back. But if that group of friends has sort of become mommy friends, but you're not a mother and you're not that interested and they don't talk about anything else, that is definitely going to, move you away from that group if they're not interested in your life, if you don't have kids, obviously. And then sometimes if you have kids, and this is just a good example because it's so prevalent where people will have mommy friends, and then your kids grow up and you may stay friends and you may not. So again, people can be in your life for a season of time, for the support, for the resonance, the identification, what's going on, but it doesn't mean it has to be a forever thing. And then sometimes We just hit a fork in the road. Different politics, different whatever. Someone may become, let's say, very religious and then become super judgmental of your life. That's a fork in the road where there's been some kind of a pivot that shifts, and really the friendship is no longer in alignment with who you are. And again, that is okay. And many of you complained about having frenemies, friends who really deep down, something good happens in your life. You kind of feel like they're not happy for you. You kind of feel like they're jealous. They wish it were them. They don't understand why it's you. They're going to say something negative about the positive thing. And I think we've got to get really real. And I'm going to give you an opportunity in the Go Deeper section to really do an inventory of who's in your life right now. But people who can't be happy for you when good things happen to you, that's not a healthy friendship. It's not something you want in your life, you know? How do we switch this? How do we change it? Well, I think that moving into raising your awareness right now of where do you have the disease to please, right? Where are you a people pleaser? Because this is really the foundation of these disordered boundaries and why it's very hard to be honest with your friends if that is what you're experiencing. So the top of mind for this topic is going to be to take the next 48 hours and you're actually going to write down, I'm going to give you 4 things to look out for, which are indications that you might have the disease to please, which is a phrase that Harriet Breaker coined in the early 2000s, I think. She wrote a book called Curing the People-Pleasing Syndrome. So do you say yes when you want to say no? Do you prioritize everyone else's needs above your own? Do you avoid conflict at all costs? Do you apologize when you're not only not sorry, but when you're pissed off? Do you know how sometimes we will use apologizing as like a social lubricant? And a lot of times it's automatic. Someone can bump into you on the subway and you're like, oh, sorry. Then you're like, wait a minute, you just mowed me down. Why am I sorry? I don't even know. It just comes out, especially if you're Canadian, for all my Canadians, because I've heard from many of you that it's like a national culture to apologize for all the things for reasons that have nothing to do with anything you did. But this is really important because you're not just doing this. If you do this 48-hour awareness raising exercise of figuring out how badly you may or may not have the disease to please. And don't worry, it's all written down for you. You're also going to see that you're probably doing these things in other relationships. But for our purposes right now, since the topic is boundaries with friendships, and that is complicated enough, we're just going to keep it to this. So where do you say yes when you want to say no? How often are you prioritizing everyone else's needs or your friends' needs above your own, or what they want above your own? How often are you avoiding conflict? You're just avoiding it. You have something to say, but you're not going to say it. And how much of the time are you apologizing when the truth is you have not done anything wrong? So that is going to be your top of mind for this topic, because really in the awareness raising, and again, we can't change anything that we are unaware of. It's impossible. So a lot of what we're doing together is taking information from the basement of your mind, right? That's the unconscious mind, and we're moving it up into the main part of the house, which is your conscious mind, because only then can you make any changes. Only then. So moving into the Go Deeper section for boundaries with friends, you're going to take a friendship inventory. And we're going to really get into the nitty-gritty of how do you feel when you're around particular people? How do you feel before? How do you feel after? Because this will help you identify the friendships that are draining you, right? The friendships that are provoking anxiety for you. I mean, when I was in my 20s, I had friendships where I was kind of emotionally afraid of the person because they were so judgmental of my life that I was afraid to tell them something if I thought they would disapprove of it. I mean, clearly I had enough therapy after that to figure it out, but I was like, wow, this is so incredibly stressful. And when we think about friendships, listen, they are voluntary. right? No victims, only volunteers here, as they say. So you really want to get clear about who you are allowing and inviting into your one-of-a-kind, amazing life, right? And the action that I'm going to ask you to take is you're going to take the friendship inventory and the answers, and from that, you're going to establish a VIP list, which is going to be the friendships that there's mutuality. If we talk about what is a good friendship, what does it really mean? Qualities of a good friendship, a good healthy friendship with healthy boundaries is where you're supporting each other, where you're able to listen without judgment. They're able to listen without judgment, right? Good friends are not in competition with you. They only want to see you succeed. They're so pumped, right? When something good happening for you, if the friendship is healthy, does not feel like something bad happening to your friend. It's like they're reveling in your success and your joy. Good friends spend time helping each other out. But it's mutual. It's not just one. And in very codependent relationships, you'll see that it's one person overgiving like crazy and the other person overtaking like crazy. And we know that that is disordered boundary setup right there. Anything that smacks of codependency, because it's uneven by the very nature of what it means to be codependent. It really means one person is doing more than the other, but also is overly invested in the feeling states, the outcomes, the decisions, the circumstances of the friend, to the degree that whatever's happening for the friend feels like it's happening to you. And that has to be to the detriment, though, of your internal peace. Listen, we're all concerned about our friends and people that we love. But if what's happening to your friend feels like it's happening to you, I always say to my clients, I want you to check your urgency. How urgent does your friend's situation feel to you? Are you taking it on? Do you feel compelled to fix it? That is a disordered emotional boundary response, because that's not your side of the street. That's your friend's side of the street. So there's something natural in good and healthy friendships where we're not playing out these unresolved childhood things that we are in unhealthy friendships with massively disordered boundaries. So much of the time, there's something that's being repeated in that process. And listen, good friendships require truth. If your friend hurts your feelings, it's saying, hey, I wanted to talk about what happened last Wednesday. What you said at dinner, even though you said you were kidding, I have to say it's been with me ever since, and it really hurt my feelings. I would like to make a simple request that you not make a snide comment like that again. If you have something to say to me, please talk to me directly, but it really made me feel bad. Truth. We can just simply tell the truth. And in a healthy relationship, rather than your friend being defensive and wanting to fight and telling you why you're ridiculous and wrong, they're going to really care that they hurt your feelings, even if they don't feel like they did anything wrong, right? You don't have to always agree, but your friend, a real friend, always cares, actually, about how you feel. So decent and healthy, good boundaried friendships are absolutely worth the investment, the time, the energy, and learning how to create healthy boundaries and create healthy dialogue.